This is Brian Putt. We're in the fourth video of this presentation on buying a new or a used car using Enterprise 4.0. In the first three sections, we talked about framing the problem. We talked about modeling the strategy table. And then we talked about tornado charts. In this session, we're going to talk about sensitivity to different variables. And we can see how we can do that easily with the Enterprise 4.0. Just as a quickie refresher, this problem is about buying a new or a used car and whether you get an inspection beforehand if you're going to buy the used car, and if you get the inspection, whether you're going to buy a new or a used car depending upon the results of that inspection. We're going to minimize total cost. So here was the model. Second video, I worked on the strategy. In the third video, we did tornado charts. And in the fourth video, we're going to do sensitivity to different variables. So let's flip over to the model. Okay, here's the model where we left it after the third video. And we were developing the tornado chart. We now want to do sensitivity. But let's do some manual sensitivities to start with. So I'm going to switch back to the strategy table. Go over here, and we're going to retrieve PM strategy. Retrieve. And so now you'll see that the PM strategy data table is active, and I can go to the strategy table. Now this is a really nice chart that we saw before. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to bring it up here. And what in the strategy table we had set up where options 3 and 4 were perfect information and 5 and 6 were extensive reviews. But I'd really like to compare it to a quick review. Here's a summary of the three review types. Lower left is the perfect information with a 100% on the diagonals. It doesn't cost anything because what we want to find out is whether that has any value at all, which we've already done. The extensive information costs $150, and it's the middle table. And then finally, the quick review only costs $50, but it's not as reliable. You can tell by looking at the low. So back to the model. So let's change this to a quick review and this to a quick review. And now we have a different result. The titles didn't change here, but let's take a look at this chart. So the goods didn't change, but here is the imperfects. So they are higher cost and a hair smaller confidence range. So this is how you can use these tables to look at sensitivities of variables. Let's look at another one. Let's take our graph here and let's go look at and what I'd like to do is look at changing the cost of the new car. When does the imperfect new or used new, when does we get really a change in decision policy? Because right now, we would probably be going with the imperfect new, and that would be the extensive review. So if I went up to 42,000, let's see what happens. Oh, we can see that the new news went way up in price. And now they all have about the same P80 range, but the imperfect it would be the best. How about 40,000? Still better. Wow. 39,500. So you get the idea that we could do sensitivities very easily, manual sensitivities very easily. So let's put this back to 39. I'm going to change the strategy table back to the original so we don't get confused with what we've done. And now our chart should be good. This is still the 80%. I'm going to delete that. So what we need to do is make PM table the active worksheet. So come over here and do get PM table, and we'll retrieve that. And this is where we're going to put our sensitivities. Now I've already set up a multiple experiment for sensitivities. And what this does is look at the probability of the low cost. So from 0.1 to 0.9, and it does that for decision policy 1, then 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So there's 55 things here. And we've set the reference equal to option 8. So what we need to do is to link these variables. So over here on the model sheet, let's see if we can get rid of this chart. I'm just going to move this over here. Maybe we'll want that later. I don't know. Over here on the PM table, right now this is just referring to here. Why don't we set this equal to the decision policy? So row 9 is the probability of the low cost. This is the reality that it's actually it's on the low cost curve. So over here, probably being on the low real repair costs. What we want to do is here is put this equal to this 0.1. Okay. Then we have the type of review here. That's equal to, must be equal to something. Oh, here, extensive review. Have that as an input. And type of car purchased. Well, this will depend upon the strategy. Over here in Tornado, remember we went to the strategy table. I'm just going to retype that. So the PM table is going to be equal to the index of, this is the get information or not. So over the strategy table, comma, this one, whatever that is. And this get information should be the same idea, equals index, comma. Oops, I think those are reversed. Let me just move them around here. So strategy 1 is no information, and we get a new car. And we have an extensive review. And the decision policy, we need to set that up as well. So this will be equal to the index of, comma, 1. Oops, I spell index right. In fact, what we could do is come back over here to sensitivity and put in something like, how about a 23 or something like that, 23 here. Now we've got a perfect information. And now we're showing use new. What else do we need to do? How about our value measure? Total cost, that sounds right. We'll do a save here. And then we'll do our experiment. So we'll go to SIPmath, define outputs, multiple experiments. Output name is going to be sensitivity. How about sends low cost? Input name is ME. Input cell is 23. Input values are 1 to, in the starting cell, see here, we'll say OK. So it's doing 56 cases and 1,000 trials each. There's some results. We'll take the average of these, copy that across, and SIPmath get stats. These are all 39 because in this option 1 we bought a new car, so we never had any repair costs. In option 2, we're buying a used car all the time, and you can see that there is a difference in cost based on the probability of low cost. If there's really high probability of low cost, it could be as little as 36,000 or 488. So what are we going to do with this data? So what we can do is we can plot this data. There are 6 different strategies. And we're going to plot a line graph with each one of them as a function of the probability of the low repair costs. So here's our graph. Oh, I guess we should add a legend over here. So here's our graph with a legend. So if we get the new car, it's just a flat line at 39. If we get a used car, orange, it actually becomes preferred when the probability of a low cost repair is getting close to 80%, maybe call it 75 or something of that nature. And then it's preferred because it's got the lowest cost versus the imperfect used new, which would be optimal from here to here. But then there's a period where this blue line is the lowest cost, and that's the imperfect new. And then actually, if the probability of the low cost repair is like 10% or less, the optimal policy would be just to get a new car. So by looking at all these strategies together, we can get how sensitive that particular variable is to changing our policy. In this particular case, you can tell it's very sensitive because if it was a little bit higher, you see we would go to the imperfect used new. If it were lower, we'd stay with the imperfect new. What if we change this to perfect information? So the blue and the orange line stayed the same because they were not impacted by information. And these two curves, there are actually 4 curves here, are all kind of all together because there's really no difference between imperfect and perfect now. Because we said the imperfect is perfect. And the little difference here reflects the difference between a new and a used new. Now let's see what happens when we change this to a quick review. These curves all move up. Once again, the new and the used didn't change. I'll change it back now to the extensive review. And you'll see the green and the blue line just move down. So now we need to establish a new PM table, which will become this one, PM table. And we'll just set this equal to the defaults. If we want to do another analysis, we'll throw it in there. So this is one model where we've done different types of analysis. If we change the basic model, we can update each of these analyses very easily by simply going to that PM table, letting it recalculate, and then going to the next one, because it'll update all the data and then store it away again. Thank you for watching. I hope you watched videos 1, 2, and 3 as well. And if you have questions around Enterprise 4.0, send me an email, and the email is on the screen. Thank you. Bye.